Welcome to Podcaster Bulletproof, May 25th, May 28th, 2019. If anyone on this podcast is found dead, let the state know that it was not suicide. Onward. So what's up, man? This world's crazy. There's so many things to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, but a little bit of awkward silence in the beginning. Sometimes it can be okay. So
It's true.
You tell me, bro.
Well, I don't know.
Here's the new
Don't know what to say.
the new segment.
I'm scared to say anything.
The new segment. The first thing that comes to your mind is what the topic, the opening discussion is about. So, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
It's weird. It's I guess just self censorship.
Self censorship.
Just just basic observations. Just the way people will suddenly conform, like a serious belief, for the sake of surviving in a social structure. And it's usually linked to, things like income but it's just interesting to see the varying degrees which, with people will do like different, they'll just, at the drop of a hat, they'll be like, yeah, okay, I don't care about anything as long as it's okay with you and everything's cool. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there's people who are just like, they believe what they believe, and then they just refuse to change it unless someone convinces them. And no one ever tries to convince them. Usually people just try to force them,
Yeah.
to have a different opinion or whatever. So I don't know. It's just like everything else. Like when you look at insects or fish or birds, different kinds of animals, they're all, there's something comparable. So that would be one of the first things that pops into my head.
So you were telling me you heard the Jordan Peterson interview Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear it yet. But from what you were telling me, it sounds like they were touching on some good. It was a good conversation between two people that are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, but maybe on the same exact end of the spectrum at the same time. They're definitely two different individuals. And they're in their own way. Each of them are leaders in their in this day and age. And maybe on the cutting edge and forefront of certain ideologies and belief systems. I definitely agree a lot of what Milo says and Jordan Peterson says.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also could disagree with them on a million things too. But the thing to focus on maybe is that the things I do agree with them on are the things that matter. All the things I don't agree with them on don't matter so much.
Well, I mean, I would say in some ways I agree with that. For me, there's certain things that I don't know. I have a very sharp disagreement with both of them. And the same would be true with, lots of people who are on the right. In particular when it comes to like the religious question and basically how close or far away you are to trying to in some way copy, Jesus, you know what I mean? To try to like take it to as far as you can handle if you do your best, like there's definitely sharp disagreements I have with them, but for the most part, on the things that actually really matter, yeah. I mean,
Freedom of speech,
freedom
of religion.
I mean, not only those two things, but just logic and just understanding that part of an advanced civilization is being able to communicate and not censoring someone and saying, like the main thing this is a great thing to like spill into, like the whole reaction about face rape and all the tech giants and the, what's another company that's real popular, like Twitter, which I still have never had a Twitter, because like I was like, I'm not gonna submit to some kind of website that doesn't allow me to make long comments. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, someone was.
I don't want my speech to be limited.
Yeah, that's true.
Why the limit on free speech? Like, that was my initial reaction to Twitter. I was like, this is, it's crap. No. It's entertaining. I guess it's fun to jump in and go back and forth, like celebrity death match on Twitter. It's like, you're really stupid and you're dumb, and like back and forth. I mean, I guess, in some cases it can be really entertaining and good for the culture, I guess. But just for me personally, I was like, I don't really want to get into that, But so all of these companies have avoided taxes, among other things, by saying, we're a platform. You know what I mean? Like, almost like, a communication network, like telephone lines or something. We're just, we're a platform. Like, we can't be made responsible for content if someone sees something on our program and then they like commit suicide or they do something terrible, and destructive and hurtful to society. Like, we can't be made liable for that. But now, now that we are in a position of power, and now that everyone uses our website, now we're going to regulate what you can say and what you can't say. And basically, like, everyone on like half of the spectrum of people who have political opinions in the modern world, like, we're just going to start calling them Nazis and right-wingers until we can like split them in two, and then we can like cut their best part in half. That's to me, that's just how it feels. It's just, but so all these different liberals have been reacting, and they're like, what's wrong? It's a free market. Mic drop. like I thought you didn't like, you said that there's nothing wrong with a big company or a corporation. Mic drop. Like, okay, but
we're not making you a cake then.
Right. These people didn't get taxed like they were publishers. They, they completely were put into a position where they benefited in a very specific way, and now they have all this authority and power, and now they're using it to be, extremely biased and unjust and just against civilization. Because they think that if we shut you up, then we can stop you. It's like, well, like what? Like, so you put your fingers in your ear and you plug your ears and you're like, I'm not gonna listen. Like they don't want debate. They don't want. They just think they're right, and they think, well, if I'm not right, really, then I don't give a damn, and like this world isn't worth it anyways. So it's like, well, if you want to be that person and like ruin people's lives, like, in my opinion, I think you're heading down a twisted path and you're going to regret it. So I'm just not going to go down that path. But now, because I'm not going down that path and I'm going in the opposite direction, like, you're trying to like block content on Facebook. You know what I mean? Which was originally just this place where I was supposed to connect with my family and friends, and now it's like this weird voyeuristic matrix, and it's like, but then there's people who will only communicate with you through Facebook. I have family who, like, if I didn't have a Facebook, I wouldn't even know who they are. I wouldn't even hear from them. I wouldn't even, and in some cases, like, I saw them on Facebook, and then, like, I met them in person, and I was like, oh, wow, like, maybe you look just like you did in your pictures, and, like...
it almost shows you how much they do care, which, if there was no Facebook, it wouldn't seem they cared at all, maybe. Or they would have to care more to make that cross that bridge.
Right.
Facebook makes it easy to not care that much, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to delete my account a few times, but all you can do is deactivate it, which I feel kind of like discriminated against in a way where, it should be my right to close a bank account, to get rid of my driver's license, to change my address.
That's why I call it face rape.
It's and
Because
then
that's literally what they're doing. They're taking advantage of technology, and they're abusing it. And they think because they use, technocratic language, and then they smile and they go, yeah, that's how it is. Like, now I'm going to go live on my, my, island paradise, and I'm going to kick off all these natives because I'm worth all this money now. So I'm going to virtue signal to the world and tell people what they can and cannot say. And then it's like, it perfectly embodies, like, do what I say, not what I do.
yeah, what did Oprah do in Hawaii? What I learned in Hawaii, because we were over there, and we wanted to drive the road that
She was
circles
like,
the island.
everybody gets a car.
No, we wanted to drive the road that circles the island, and it's basically like a tourist trap where the road you can only go one direction to get to this one other side of the island.
What?
And I asked
you have to
listen. I asked the concierge. I go, and I'm looking at the map, right? And I'm like, I like geography, and I love looking at maps and thinking about weird places and stuff. And I asked the concierge. I go, why can't we drive right up through this and like make it a shortcut through the mountain? She goes, oh, Oprah Winfrey bought like 50,000 acres of native lands, and then built like a Trump wall.
Wow.
Basically a wall, some sort of wall.
That could be one of the scenes.
And cut off the public access.
Dude, that's great.
And calls it like, she's got some ranch or whatever.
Dude, it's like a dictator.
and meanwhile, the natives are over there road raging against me, calling me the shitty tourist. I'm the one that's about to go, you want to tear a wall down, tear Oprah's wall down.
No, but see, Zuckerberg can have his wall, and
dude,
Oprah can have her wall. But
right.
you and I, like, pretty soon we're not even going to be able to have our backyard.
Right, and
walls.
show me a liberal that can argue that
against
that. Show me a liberal anyone that can argue against that point right there.
Dude, that's when they
make any
the
sort
conversation, dude. It's just kind of like when you make a baby and then you just leave. Like, that's what leftists do. They just like, I'm done. Like, I refuse to accept challenge. Like, I quit. Like, that's what they do, and they do that in arguments. And I understand that that's pretty harsh, and I'm not saying all of them do that, but I have noticed a pattern, and you know what I mean? Like, even the people we've talked about who are very conservative, that we both know who can be really mean, in a lot of ways. Like, they all have their problems, but like, there is something I've noticed as far as that, like, just being like, even though it's like, why are you even caring about your responsibilities if you're so miserable and you hate your life so much to be doing the right thing? But it's like, they're still trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're still, it's better than the other option. And so I find the same thing in arguments. It's like, anytime they get confronted, they can't deal with it. And that gets back to the whole Jordan Peterson or Milo thing. It's the same thing with someone like Rush Limbaugh. Like, I don't agree with everything that Rush Limbaugh says, but there are some things that he has said that I do agree with. Some things I completely disagree with him on. And it would be really interesting to hear someone argue those kind of points with him instead of, like, they just blackball him. And then he has his show and does his thing, and then they have their shows and they do their thing.
Right.
And it's just and that's what they don't understand. That's why people like Alex Jones have gotten so popular, because or Joe Rogan, because they're just a guy giving his opinion. And people want to listen because it just so happens that it's not that everyone agrees with this one person on everything, but there are certain things that they agree about.
Right.
And so they unify people that way, and it's just funny to watch. It's pretty amusing, especially to a Christian, to watch all these people who don't believe in God or like try so hard to out manipulate and maneuver each other. It's like they literally they act like high functioning animals. And some of them know it, you know what I mean? And some of them will even admit it, but like most of them won't, but they know it, and then they go through phases in their life to try to deal with it. And they buy a spot on an island and they build a giant wall. And if we have the politically incorrect cartoon, which we should totally do, one of the scenes could be like, someone like trying to sneak into Oprah's, lair in Hawaii where she does God knows what. And then like the guy's like sneaking up to the wall and it like says like, Donald J. Trump built by Donald Trump. Like, I told her, I built her a wonderful wall. She said, don't tell anyone, Donald. Don't tell anyone. I said, okay, Oprah, I love you. I won't do it. Like, it would just be great. You know what I mean? And I don't even like Trump. You know, I would say I like certain things he's done. And on some level, I'm undecided.
Makes you wonder.
Him.
Makes you wonder.
But yeah, I mean, it's like ultimately, it's a crapshoot, but it's still, I don't know. It would just still be very amusing. It would just be funny, like, you know, Oprah's wall around her lair, you know, where she, I don't know, who knows what she does.
And what was heartbreaking is like, okay, you know, if the land was for sale, she has all the right to buy it. But what broke my heart is I asked the concierge, and when she told me, it was like, you know, you were just selling us on this, Hawaii's moved to Hawaii, it's the most wonderful. You know, her job is to upsell the trips and the tourism.
Because she's trying
and
to
when
just
she
have
said
enough
that,
money to pay her rent.
Right. When she said that, I like looked around at all these people on vacation, and it was like, is this North Korea? We're in North Korea over here. And where like everything was so eerily clean and perfect that you just, if you have some sort of intelligence, you know there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong. Like if you look at North Korea, the streets and all that are so clean. You know why? Because no one is ever using them. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I don't like restriction. Well, and look at how they vote. You know, that's the thing, is that, you know, by your fruits you will know them, and it's pretty obvious. And
it's like tell me the last time you met a Hillary supporter that disagreed with something Hillary stood for. Like, I'm a Trump supporter, but I disagree with a lot of things, and I'll talk about it. I'll talk more. I got more dirt on Trump than most liberals because I study Trump. Most liberals hate Trump across the board. They don't even really know why they hate him.
Right. Like, no, I always thought that was funny for me because when he first entered and they did all the debates, like, I remember being really kind of actually annoyed with him because I was like, oh, okay, he's supposed to be the shtick guy that the media are like, see, look at how dumb the Republicans are. And then I was just hoping that somehow, like, you know, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of, like, Ted Cruz because of his associations with certain banks, but, you know, I figured he could be potentially good, especially for, like, pro-life things and basic individual rights and parental rights. But I like Rand Paul, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't agree with him on all the things that he does, but I really feel like more than anything, the government needs, like, a reduction in size. You know, but what we've seen with Trump, with him winning, like, you know, to go from that to being like, oh man, I'd love to see, you know, Rand Paul get the nomination, and then it's like Donald Trump's getting 10 minutes of the debate time, and he's just insulting people, and it's really funny, you know? He's like, quiet, shh, quiet, Jeb. He's like, and then Jeb's like, tries to raise his voice, and he's like, oh, I like it. You have good energy tonight, Jeb. That's great. And dude, everyone's, and it was like he broke him in front of everybody. It was so funny.
It is a good sign of leadership, though, because because if someone like Trump can say something to get you to screw up your train of thought, then your train of thought's not that important. It's not that powerful. Because we need someone like Trump that no matter what Hillary says, no matter what kind of jab or insult, it's not going to faze him. And so, because that's what it's going to take to deal with these world leaders, especially crazy dictators.
And you don't even, the truth is that we don't know how much, you know, I don't know. I think the whole presidential thing, I wonder if it's not just a kind of a show that's put on so that we think everything is normal and acceptable, when really, if the people knew the kind of things that were going on in their society, everything would be different.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they knew what their money was being spent on when it was taken by the government and spent on things on behalf of the government, like, I don't think they would be very happy. I don't think we would have gotten to this place. So it's all, these kind of people just use deception, and that's why they don't care about restricting your free speech. They think it's funny. They're like, yeah, I hope you can't speak anymore. I hope you get deplatformed.
Well, yeah, and then
like, I never heard anybody address Milo's arguments.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, is like, when he said, like, trust me, I know I'm gay, blah, 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 all this different stuff that, like, in the homosexual community, it's normal for a boy who's coming of age to go to a party and end up like hooking up. We'll start out with that with another man, and then it's like, well, how old's the man? Oh, he's 30. Or he's 29. Well, wait, how old is the boy? Wait, what? He's 16, 15. Wait, so he's below the age of consent? Well, yeah, but I mean, he wanted to. I mean, he's gay. Like, you know how you remember how your hormones were out of control when you were a teenager, and it's like, yeah, I do remember that, but I also know that if I, as a 29-year-old or a 30-year-old, like, go to a party and find a 16-year-old girl who's enamored with me, and then, like, a couple hours later, like, I'm trying to put myself inside her, like, I'm pretty sure that that's considered rape. And I could go to prison for that. I could get in trouble for that. That's against the law. You know, he pointed that out, and that's, like, when everything, you know, kind of fell for him, when they just twisted it on him, and they were like, oh, you know, you support pedophiles, you know, and it's like, well, I mean, the guy was technically molested by a pedophile and then convinced himself that he wanted to do it. I mean, it's kind of, you know, I'm sure there are 16-year-old and 14-year-old girls out there who have done things with older men, and they're like, I wanted to do it. And it's like, yeah, but, like, from my perspective, your dad abandoned you, and no male ever took interest in you unless it was sexual, and, like, you have all this trauma from your crazy mom, and now she lives with a bunch of cats and complains about ex-boyfriends, and, you know, maybe there's some other reasons for those kind of things. You know, like,
I can't believe we're talking about this stuff, and it's real stuff. This isn't like, we haven't even got into conspiracy theories. We're talking about things that really happen and happen over every day. And I can't believe that this is what we're talking about in this day and age. And to the point,
you know what? Nothing is new under the sun. I mean,
if you
read about the Bible, dude, I mean, there were whole tribes of people who were like, give us your firstborn child. Like, and you could see some of the mothers being like crying and being like, I don't want to do this, and then they just take the kid and like slice its throat or burn it alive or whatever for like a good harvest, or like, you know, some kind of ridiculous crap. And so that was going on back then. So what's scary about today is we have the potential of doing that just as bad, but with technology on a massive scale, because that hasn't happened yet, and that's what all of these cynical, secular, anti-Judeo-Christian people, ultimately, that's what they're driving at. Because what else are they going to do? Look at all the things they've got from Christianity. Like, what has their philosophy done for the world? Like, they just destroy things and use deception to cover up the bad things that they do. And then most of the successes that they have are through good people who they manipulate and control. So, you know what I mean? But that's what fuels them, is their lust for power, you know, their pride in themselves. And so, you know, it's just as old as that basic story. It's pride.
And look at all the people in the world, and it's like, no one's pissed off. No one's getting upset about all these things. Do they think it's a lie? Do they think that it's a conspiracy theory? All this evil going on and craziness. You know, they get more upset when someone disses a basketball player on Twitter. They get more upset when someone disses their candidate.
Well, that's a good point, because, well, I mean, that's something I like about, you know, like confession. Like, that's what I like about that, is that you just allowing yourself to be in a position where you have to examine your own conscience and, like, make that decision about, you know, what you did, you know, in the past week or couple weeks or month or year or decade or whatever. Like, what have I done that was, like, mortally sinful, evil stuff that was just wrong and destructive and selfish and not cool? You know what I mean? Like, not acceptable. Like, I'm ashamed of it. I wish I could take it back. Like, you are forced to do that. Like, that's a humiliating kind of thing to even consider. And there are people who I think are in high positions in the world, and they just simply refuse to even consider that as a possibility.
And I can't believe...
because they're insulated from it in a way.
Dude.
But it is their own choice. So,
I can't believe there's not more people in power that are going up against, you know, human trafficking. I mean, you name it. Where are all the freedom fighters, the good guys? What are
Dude,
what are we doing?
They're whacking off to porn. They're you know, hanging out with their kid, like once in a great while, and spending more time playing video games and looking up, porn, or getting into a hobby.
That's it? There's got to be more than
No,
that.
dude, it comes down to the individual. It goes down. I'm convinced it's down to you or me. Like every decision we make, it's actually that, serious. And people just don't like to contemplate that because that's not, it's they don't call it carrying your cross for nothing. It's not the easiest thing to embrace, but you have a whole class of people who just utterly are unaware of it, or just deny no matter what, because they know what it means and they don't even want to have to consider facing that. Like, I don't know, that kind of thing terrifies me personally. It's just, and maybe I'm just superstitious, or people would go, that's not scientific or intellectual, and it's like there's a rational argument that you're completely full of crap in that statement and assumption. Like, you can say that, but you can't prove any more than I can prove that God exists. Like, you can't. You have your own gods and your own belief systems. If if you're the one who says religion is just a belief system, but you have your own belief system, and it's like, well, it's not a religion, and it's like, okay, so your motivations are different, but everybody has like a creed that they have, that they adapt and adjust over time, but ultimately it's their trajectory. It's how they react to the situations they're put in. Each and every single person,
We're truly in the end times, and sitting here in America, I truly believe, and I feel it, and I live it. We have no idea. We can barely even begin to imagine how chaotic the world is and how dark it is right now. In the middle of the night, somewhere in a third world country, what true survival is, what true overcoming is, the hardships in life. Maybe we get so upset about all these things going on is because we hear about them. But in other countries, they don't hear about the news like we do. And so it's just hard to fathom why there's not more of a people demanding justice on certain levels. Now, when Trump first went into office, supposedly, maybe now I'm looking back and thinking about it, maybe it was all just fakery. But supposedly he arrested 500 pedophiles in L.A. County, like the first month he was in office. Because the FBI knew about them and had their cases, but according to the law or whoever was in charge, they weren't allowed to move in on that. Trump authorized it, and they moved in on it. It made the news, but it made the news for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But this Jesse Smollett character is still on the news 10 years later.
Yeah. Dude, what's the deal with him?
We're talking about his haircut.
What's the deal with him, man? Like, that guy is like such a racist. This is a primitive hack. Like, just a racist jackass who's privileged and who doesn't appreciate the situation he has been put in. Not even considering whatever talents he may or may not have. Like, just the position he's in, it's just a mockery of the actual suffering of people in the past, who people claim to have connections to. It's like, you were just born, you grew up in the environment you're in, and you can make all these claims about the past and the future, but like, that doesn't justify you acting like a bad person. Like, but that's what's going on, is people are they're just finding clever ways to cover their tracks, or so they think. But it's like a lot of people can see it, but a lot of people can't see it, and that, I guess, that's where a lot of the damage is done.
You look at all the people, the kids that end up abused and disappear, and the kidnappings. Was it in the UK? Like, it's like 500,000 children go missing every year in the UK. Out of that 500,000, 100,000 we know that it was a family member. Another 100,000 was like some random, more of a understandable, just natural disappearance and death in the woods or something. But there's like 300,000 where the cases are never even solved. These people are disappearing like it's something out of the Twilight Zone. And
right. And it happens in poor areas where people don't have individual rights. They don't have their own homes or properties. They live in giant apartment complexes, and they everything is run by the state. And that's the problem with the so-called utopian, any kind of post-Marxist, collectivist state. It's always doomed to fail because of human nature, and it always leads to despotic rulership, because the people are ultimately the people who can really succeed are the people who are motivated by power, more so even than excellence, but only insofar as it's necessary for the power. And that's the focus, and that's why they don't lead the world intellectually. They don't make cool. I mean, they do nice things. The people from different parts of the world, like in the UK, they do wonderful things, but a lot of it is suppressed. You know what I mean? Their whole ideology has been suppressed, and I mean, a lot of people openly support abortion whenever you feel like it. Oh, I don't want to have a kid. I'm just gonna wipe it out. Like that is so. To be tricked and conned into thinking that all that's cool and you can just float through life, and like someone else should pay for your rent and things should be free, and like it's just a sick, it's just a dysfunctional, sick type of cultural concept. It's just not.
It's like so many humans are turning into
twisted.
they're becoming the blind, featherless chickens that are just waiting to be slaughtered to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. They're not chickens anymore.
It was so funny because I think there was some scandal where they had headless chickens that were genetically modified.
Yeah,
and they're just like,
that's what humans.
they're
That's
just
what
walking around.
They're like in the Matrix. They think they're walking around. That's what the new free range chickens.
It's a new kind of.
They're just plugged into the Matrix, and the chicken thinks it's eating off the ground.
Range.
Dude, it might be if it makes better tasting chicken, I'm down. I guess. I mean, if that's my only option, right? I'm freaking out though. I'm to the point in life where I'm starting to freak out.
You can't. It's because ultimately it's not in your hands. It's not in my hands.
But something. But what is
the
in my
people whose hands it's really in? They don't even realize that a lot of them don't realize that it's only in their hands because it's been placed there. It's like Pontius Pilate. It's like Jesus telling him. He's like, why don't you defend yourself? Like, I could set you free. I have power over, and then, he's like, you only have power because my father gave it to you. Like, that's it. And like you don't even realize that you're acting like you're about to could cut your own throat for all eternity. Like you have no idea how serious this is. Like, and you think that because you're powerful and you can hurt me physically, that it's not because like I'm allowing you or my father's allowing you. You know what I mean? To have the free will to make the choice if that's what you want to do. It's a profound concept, and it's like it's what's they're trying to expunge it from our culture, and it's missing. It's like the damage is done, but like now you can clearly see there's still a group that's they've called bullshit, and they know it's a scam.
It's hard to go.
And so that's why they're cutting all of those people off. And they're just picking them off. They're looking at the different ends of the spectrum. And in one corner was someone like Milo, or, and there's other corners occupied by different people like Ben Shapiro or, Rush Limbaugh or, someone, like someone like Larry Elder or, there's all these different people within the, conservative. I've always just thought of it as conservative talk show movement. You know what I mean? Because like I before there was ever Donald Trump, like I thought Trump was like corny and stupid and like a leftist from New York. Like I just thought he was just kind of like
I never heard about the guy in my whole life.
I just never. I just remember seeing him firing people because they didn't do their job that good, and I just remember like really thinking that was absolutely hilarious. That was probably the best part about the whole show, because it was American. It was an American capitalist principle, which is like adapt and adjust, and if you fail, don't cry like a baby. Get up and go find something else that you're good at, because there's got to be something that you can do
or
well
there's
enough
not
to succeed.
Or there's not.
Right, but everybody has a place, and there is But the problem is, it's a lot of selfishness, and I know this for myself. I know this for just other situations that I've observed. It's just unfortunately a common thing, with humanity.
It's hard to it's hard to go every day in life, and I know that I'm not a crazy weirdo that has a dungeon in my house. But my neighbors don't know that about me. And I don't know that about my neighbors. And sometimes I could swear, just the other day in the other town, it was on the news, this guy had his girlfriend tied up in his dungeon, his sex dungeon, for like years. She's never seen the daylight. She escapes, she makes the news. The irony is she wants to be let back in. But, I mean, the odds are somewhere in this neighborhood there's a dungeon in this neighborhood. And it's hard to drive around these streets and you don't know who your neighbors are or who your enemies are or who's got your back or who's waiting for you to trip and fall.
Well, what I know is that the rats do their deeds in secret. They're slime balls. Like, that's why Jesus says what's done in the darkness, will be held in the light for everyone to observe. Like,
well, dude,
like it's like in all of its gruesomeness. So, it's just, I don't know, man. It's a lesson as old as time, and you were placed in the position you're in at this point in history.
I almost feel
for a reason, and so what's your purpose, and that's what you have to figure out. And so that's just what all the people are figuring out in the free thought movement. They're realizing, like, I don't want to be in a group of people who will just believe whatever they're told to believe, and it's like a religion, like global warming. It's like they keep talking about global warming, and then they're flying around on private jets, burning up high-octane jet fuel, using
because they need to see the situation.
Right, yeah, they're like Al Gore, like, man, bear, pig, I need to fly out and give this speech. And it's like, why not ride a bike and have, like,
right. If you want to go see the
news cameras
iceberg
follow
calving,
you. Yeah, like,
you want to see the glaciers calving, why don't you walk up there?
Yeah.
Instead of taking a steam.
No, it's the same thing
ship.
with Ocasio-Cortez. She's like, I'm just living in the world. It's such a good answer.
It's so ridiculous that I don't believe that it's real.
Funny.
I believe that it's all Hollywood. It's just it's making a mockery of all of us people that care. I think that they're all to the point. Like, these people, they believe if the moon landings were fake, well then. If you like Trump's got to be careful with this fake news thing, because people like me are starting to think, I think anything is fake news now. And it's like,
well, I don't know. Most of it, in my opinion, it's a combination of half truth generally.
Like,
I'm always skeptical of, because I know different people have different opinions, but I can generally tell from a philosophical perspective if I'm like, okay, these people, I trust them because everything that they're saying is right in line with what I believe, like down the middle, and there's only a few things I slightly disagree with them on, and that's what places like YouTube are trying to do. Because, like, I think, someone like Milo is hilarious. I think he's funny. I disagree with him. I find him
he's a child of God?
Yeah, but I think he's doing damage to the culture with his the debauchery. It's like, it's only a joke for so long, and it's when you love your kids, like I love my kids, it's not a joke, and it's not conservative, and it's liberal, and it's crap. It's just pagan crap. And I could call him out on that, and he'd probably be like, you know what, that's probably true. You know what I mean? I've heard him acknowledge as much in a different, one way or another. So it's like, we'll never get to hear those kind of conversations because, or maybe we won't, because we're technically not allowed to, because that would make us Nazis. And it's just like, to me, it's so ironic and sinister, because it's like I actually know a decent amount about the Nazis and all of that stuff. Like, I read a lot about it, and I was fascinated with it as a kid, and it had a huge impact on my mind and my childhood. More so, like, I was the weird one who was, like, way more into World War II than other kids that I knew who were into, like, the just budding technological, explosion with, like, video games and things like that. Like, you know what I mean? So to hear all these years later that I'm a Nazi because, like, it's just, it shows how irrational and foolish these people are. and the things that they're saying. And I really do believe that they just need to be called right to their face. Like, they don't need to be given room to wiggle and squirm. Like, if you're going to make these bold assertions, you need to back them up, and you need to act like a decent person. Like, they need to be called out and opposed, like, just absolutely vigorously, because there's no, what else can you do if you want Western civilization to continue to exist? You just you know what I mean? You have to just refuse to deal with this ridiculousness, and it's like these people are destroying things. They're just making these foolish, amateurish mistakes, but again, because they're so obsessed with power and their pride, and they would sooner let the world burn than admit that they're wrong and they're full of shit, and they're not that special after all. And they've taken all their talent that's been given to them, and instead of fix the world, they've accumulated all this wealth and supposed power over the ability to create misery for other people and be selfish and like take more than was like supposed to be given to them. It's just, I don't know, it's the problem of evil. I don't know why God allows it, I suppose because it makes the glory of what, Jesus did that much more profound. I mean, it's one of those mysteries, like we don't really know, but
it's hard to know.
You can't just focus on the people like, the back alley muggings and these like sinister evil people who like, sacrifice children and think that that's going to give them some sort of positive power, when really it just makes them like utterly detestable and worthy of total destruction. When you take a newborn baby and kill a baby, like willfully with full knowledge of how evil what you're doing is, and you actually crave it and want it, like I tremble for those people, because if there is any justice in the universe, like it's not going to be kind, to people who go down that path. So, we can focus on that, but really, you'll have one person down the street and they'll be like, oh gosh, I'm just going to kill this baby inside of me, and then you'll have another person down the street who's got like 5 kids and they love their kids, and they wake up every day and they do things together and they go to work and they have these relationships, and they're not perfect, and some of them are more messed up than others, and some of them are really incredible, and a lot of them are fairly decent. So it's like you may have that one victim of some twisted evil person, but then you may have like 2,500 people who are basically decent human beings, except for the fact that like, a lot of the men, look at like porn, on a regular basis and just don't care and don't think it's wrong and don't think that they think that like it's totally fine or it's not that big of a deal. And then maybe you have, a whole group of women who kind of like are really selfish or really destructive in their own personal ways, and just like the men, and they don't I don't know, they don't do everything perfect, but they're not like kidnapping someone or like trying to kill people or sacrifice people or take advantage of people or poison people or make some sort of godlike decision where they're like, oh, we need to reduce the population. Who wants to pull the lever?
I'm
like
so
what?
jaded.
Like what? Like they don't have the right to do those things, and so they're only gonna get to do as much as God allows them to do. And the truth is the moment they do that, it's going to be something that they can't control, that they're going to instantly regret, because they love power. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why it hasn't happened yet, and why the world is still functional, semi-functional in that way, because like mutually assured destruction. You know what I mean? Like, where does it go from here? Like, what are we going to just nuke each other and then everyone dies? Like, it's
Yeah, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? I'm really freaking out about this because I just don't see it. I just don't see it growing. It might grow, but it's not.
Yeah, but you have to understand, you're not the first person to wonder that, and neither am I. And that's the mystery about God, is that for whatever reason he decides to make so many different human beings with so many different perspectives on this incredible thing we call existence. And you have your role to play, and it's it's all, I don't know. At least that's how that's what I've decided for myself. Is it's like it's ultimately out of my hands, and I'm just trying to figure out what my purpose is in the middle of all of it. Because what else can I do? Like logically, what else can I do without losing my mind?
I'm just living in the world. That's my next T-shirt.
She's still Ocasio from the block.
Oh my gosh!
Mic
man.
drop.
I don't know, man. It's like I'm so jaded. Like every time I see any type of certain kind of, like restaurant or ice cream parlor, I think they're fronts. Like all these little businesses I see on the side of these streets, like these little, all these kind of little jewelry shops, nail salons, little hair salons, little barber shops. Yeah, they're making money here and there, but that's just,
No, but I think that's one of those things where it's like you have to realize that most of those are just businesses, and they're just like, if you look at the details, they're just making enough money to like buy a house and buy a car, and it's just basic.
But listen to me.
But no, but I know what you're saying.
If you sat across the street at the bus stop and watched one of these restaurants or something, one of these little tiny ones, there's no way in hell they're paying their rent every month.
Yeah, but it's
and I
not,
mean, by the thousands of them.
I think that there are areas where that kind of thing happens in our society, but I think we're still at the point right now where, for the most part, stuff like that is not going on, and the stuff that is going on, it has to be hidden, like vigorously hidden, because
I don't know. I don't think
I don't think they're at a point yet where they're just like, let's go public with this. I think the internet kind of threw them a curveball in that sense, and that's why they're struggling to control it and censor people, because they don't want you to be able to be like, the news is lying. Look at this video.
Yeah, you can get caught up by anyone with a camera phone.
Right. So you can't engage in the same level of BS that you used to be able to. So that's why they're seeking to dominate all that and control all that. But I don't know. It's just terrifying because nobody's actually trying to fix the problems for real. Who's also in any significant position of power. I mean, obviously Trump is selling that he's like he may not be the perfect guy, but he's like a hardcore. Do
you believe the good American things he's done?
I don't. I mean, I'm very skeptical. I'm always skeptical.
When he arrested those 500 people in L.A. County,
I haven't read that story, so I don't.
That was
know.
like one of the first
things.
Never
heard about that.
See, that's interesting to me because I heard about it and I'm thinking to myself, why did I hear about it? No one's talking about it. Seen it on the news.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many stories. There's so much information. I mean,
that's another thing Facebook does. You'll get news in one direction, and then I'll get news from something else.
See, I don't get my news through Facebook.
Well, I'm saying news from anything.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you can.
Everyone's getting a different story. Everyone is getting a different story. And the shadow banning thing, I could post something on Facebook or Twitter, and I don't care.
No, but
no one ever sees anything.
I will say one thing: the small amount of liberals that I've debated over the years who, I don't know, who actually sat there and debated me, without like losing control of themselves. They all generally, it's like they had a party line. It's like being Catholic, and the commandments, and because you go every time you go to confession, you're like, you go over them, so them. It's like they're part of your creed. You know what I mean? And you meet people, and they have these same philosophical concepts that they really hold on to. And I find that in a lot of cases, it's just a way to justify irresponsible or bad behavior. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like it's like a family. It's just like, well, things aren't easy now. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, welcome to the world. Like, now, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna like deal with it and make it work, or are you gonna fold like a cheap tent?
Here's a news article I heard about that
survival of the fittest.
I just thought of this crazy news article that I never thought about this. Why wasn't it brought up in grade schools, like to help us teach us of how the world works and things to watch out for? In Tijuana, their sewage runs into the ocean. In America, it kind of does the same thing, but we treat it and we do somewhat of a humane way to that. We let the organisms and the bacteria deal with certain things, and it's a healthy approach. It's an attempt at righteousness.
Right.
But for 100 and 200 years, or let's just say 100, or let's say 60 years.
Yeah, but we're going to blame it all on those people.
For 60 years, the currents, all that shit just keeps going towards South America, the currents. Well, for some reason, last week, all that sewage from Tijuana went north to Ocean Beach and all San Diego, Mission Beach. The entire beaches along San Diego are closed. No swimming. And this was on the news like the other night, and I'm thinking to myself, you cannot be neighbors with someone like that. I cannot be neighbors with someone who has a rape dungeon in their basement, and they're my next door neighbor. I can't be neighbors with someone over there.
They're already forcing us to pick sides whether we like it or not. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I shouldn't even have said that. I'm probably a dead man, but you know what? I can't be neighbors.
It's really
how can we be neighbors?
It's okay because I've never, I don't know. I've never fit in with. I'm not saying that people who, have rape dungeons are only of one political side. I don't believe that's true. Because that's why I'm skeptical of politics, because I think it's kind of like a game in a big way. It's kind of like this thing that we go through to kind of, I don't know, maintain sanity among the population.
And I'm sick of every time you hear
maintain stability and lack of violence. But it's just we'll see what happens. But I mean, it is what it is. If we continue to reject the things that made us, like you said, not the perfect place, you know what I mean? But like our government, our capitalist, patriarchal government, like in the 40s and the 50s, in spite of all their mistakes and things that they did, they still let's find a way to treat this sewage.
Right.
Like, and then you go to like somewhere in Africa, or you go to somewhere.
They killed the genius that would have thought of that.
Dude, well, that's exactly. And why did they kill that person or destroy that person?
Because they thought they were worried he was going to take control.
Right. Because their fear of someone being more efficient and better suited to something than them, overwhelmed them to the point of where it's like, I'm gonna. If you don't do it my way, I'm going to, destroy the ball, and then the game's over.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. There's so many points I could make. Like, all these liberals are so worried about the conservatives are destroying the country with their diesel and V8 engines and their capitalism. It's like, wait a minute. We're neighbors with people pumping raw sewage, which is pharmaceuticals, sewage, toxic waste, all mixed into the same thing. Feminine Project shampoos, hair dye, hairspray, nail polish remover, spray paint, automotive paint, paint thinner, all into the ocean.
I know.
10 miles south of San Diego, and you guys are worried about the conservatives driving V8 engines around.
Well, that's why someone like Alex Jones gets banned, because it's not because everything that he says is absolutely true or anything like that. It's because when he gets into a rant and then he says that they're turning the frogs gay, it's kind of a theatrical, funny thing that he does.
But you know what?
But the whole point he was talking about is like chemicals in the groundwater just being, released in unethical fashion because it saves them money. And they're like, by the time they figure out it came from us, we'll be dead or retired. In Hawaii. On a beach in Hawaii, we'll be retired. And
it's sad, it's just terrible, man.
No, it's crazy.
So you're gonna add tariffs. You can chain react it in any direction you want. You can just make shit up. So Trump does these tariffs. Mexico agrees with it. How do they offset it? They just dump more. They don't clean up their shit and they just dump it in the ocean. Maybe that's what it is. It could be so many scenarios,
dude. It's
mind-boggling.
It's they're not only dumping sewage into the ecosystem and being extremely destructive, which many people in the United States have done as well. They're, trying to travel to places that still have some level of capitalism, like a portion of free market capitalism that's still left. And they want to live there. And the moment they get there, they vote liberal so that they can get free shit. It's like, they're like, no, we're going to bring Hugo Chavez to you. and if you don't want us to come here, you're a racist. And it's like, no, dude, I see the game you're playing. Like, I'm not a racist. I really don't care about your race. I actually care much more about your philosophy, like, for real. And that's we don't get to say that, and it's those kind of messages are never even allowed to be discussed in public anymore because.
And I hear all these people.
It doesn't fit the narrative that both sides have to play. I'm
starting to have a Alex Jones rant. You hear all these people like, oh, I went down to Mexico to get my teeth done. Oh, I went down to Mexico. Pharmaceuticals are cheaper down. Oh, I went down to Mexico and I had a surgery done. I had a cyst removed, and it's cheaper. And it's like, yeah, but what about the whales that you care so much about that are beaching themselves up in Mission Beach? All that, you guys, name a liberal that there's not. How many liberals have no problem dumping the shit down the drain, the storm drain?
No, I would. It's probably just like conservatives, where there's varying degrees of different people. Like, there are the liberals who actually don't pollute, and they're actually, and to their credit, I've definitely, especially more classical liberals or libertarian types.
I love classical liberals,
especially with
liberals,
gardening. No, I mean,
I have more in common with classic liberals than I do conservatives.
I do too on a certain level, because like, especially with when they do gardening and composting and things like that, where they make
they're at least trying.
What they do is they respect nature enough, which I call God, which if you're a conservative and you really respect God, you can learn from nature. You can learn how things function. And there's people who grow food and it sustains them, and it's a self-recycling, very low-maintenance concept, and it creates a very healthy ecosystem that's good for everything. And it's a purely positive thing, and you could call that person a hippie. It's like, if that guy's going to live that type of lifestyle, I mean, that's almost Christian to me. You know what I mean? That's I could see Jesus admiring that.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with that type of liberal. The problem is the California liberal that is literally purchased like thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars in birth control.
Yeah, and the plastic surgery,
and they've like flushed it down the drain into and then they're like, let's celebrate Earth Day. Today I'm taking a canvas tote to the grocery store to buy all of these items that just arrived in the port from China.
I think in California they're saying that the groundwater in the aquifer, they're detecting pharmaceutical traces now. It's finally starting to build up to like a parts per million.
Well, yeah, and the greatest thing is that now they're moving here because they're like, it's like so expensive in California. And like, oh my gosh, I know. And my house was so expensive, I couldn't afford it. And then like the gangs, I'm like, you have to be careful in certain parts of town. And then they're like, I love living where I'm living now. I just hate that, like, all the gun-toting rednecks, all the conservatives, and it's just like, do you not see that you're functioning as a social parasite? Do you not see that we are not going to your places because I have no desire to go to New York. I have no desire. I mean, except for like maybe for like a short trip or like just to find some inspiration for, something productive for Western civilization. But like, it's not. I don't want to live there. I have no desire to live there. I fundamentally disagree with the philosophy of everyone who lives there. I don't. I'm sure there's people who live there who do agree with me, but it's a very small percentage. And my hand goes out to those people who are trying to live a Christian life in a place like New York. I don't want to live there. But that's the thing, is the people in California, they'll just come here. They'll just come here and elect another leftist. Like, they don't care. Because it's like Jim Morrison when he said, he's going to get his kicks before the whole shithouse goes up in flames. Like, that's really, it seems like that's really what's going on underneath all of it. And it's like, if you say that, some of them will get really offended, and others will just refuse to speak to you, or just not. They just can't. They just refuse to process. But it is what it is. And again, buy their fruits. You will know them. They just don't.
It's hard to stay optimistic and keep. I have hope, but can I have hope and not be optimistic? I believe so.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find optimism.
No, it is. But really, to be healthy and to be, I think, to find true happiness, you have to be, a little bit skeptical and a little bit cynical about reality. You have to maintain at least a healthy level of it in order just to function and survive and cope with the difficult things that you have to deal with in your life. And that's like every single person to varying degrees. So it's just something everybody has to deal with, But some people do not want to deal with it, and that's their religion, is finding a way to not. And I totally get it. Like, I have empathy for those people because it's easy to get sucked into that yourself and in a million different ways. You could go in any direction. But that's the challenge, is to at least try your best to not go in that direction and try to, like, make the world an actual, like, better place with your actions. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do every day, and it's like, it is brutal. It is not easy to metaphorically clean your damn room. Or your real room, for that reason. It's not easy to do. It's like, in your life, in your job, in your career path, and paying off your debts and dealing with, and then when you throw in the moral side of it, like, and that's what I've noticed now is all these people are like, they have all these broken families, and it's like they see their kid, like, every once in a while, or I don't know, it's just not the way it's supposed to be. Like, when I was that age, it wouldn't have been good if I was left to my own devices for that much time, and amidst all that turmoil, it wouldn't have been good for me. Like why, you know what I mean? Why are we aspiring to that now? Why has that become the new religion for people? And so they simultaneously mock Christianity. It's like, well, why can't I mock that? Like, why can't we mock transgenderism the way they mock traditional families? You know what I mean? They call that hate speech. You can get banned. You can get deplatformed.
I can't understand
for disagreeing
the law,
with them.
but
you can't do the same thing to them that they get to do to you. And then when you call them on it, they go, "Good. I'm glad you're censored. I hope no one ever hears you speak again."
I can't believe the law lets them do it and
dude.
backs them.
No,
why does the law back them?
It doesn't. The law says Facebook is acting like a publisher, and they're not a publisher. Or at least they haven't been paying taxes like a publisher. And in the fact that, they have had so many people who are conservative. Like, Alex Jones helped increase Facebook's net worth by getting lots of listeners and lots of people hooked onto Facebook apps and all their crap.
That's right.
Because
I wouldn't be a part of it if it wasn't for people like that.
So now they're using that power that he actually helped people like him help them generate, and now they're turning because now they're in a power position. And it's so they got there by playing the card of like, oh, we're just a platform, we're just a communication service. You can't hold us liable for people who do things.
It's so sick.
But then now all of a sudden in an instant they're like, if you don't say what we agree with politically, we'll ban you and like all of your million followers from getting any content from you ever again on our website.
They banned Louis Farrakhan.
Well, yeah, and he's a total piece of crap.
But he's black, so isn't that like a hate crime?
No, I mean
reverse hate crime.
No, I mean I think
but he thinks he thinks.
Dude,
he thinks that he believes what he believes because he's black.
But
so banning him because of what he believes is racism.
The average intelligent person, especially the average intelligent black person, is like, this is ridiculous. This is extreme. This is a trick. It looks like a cult of personality where the guy just tells people things that make them feel emotionally good about things that they're upset about, or insecurities they have, or things they haven't dealt with, or whatever, or things they blame on other people, and he makes them feel positive about that in a way that's acceptable to them. And that's really all that's going on there. It's like, what is he doing for the black community? Like Louis Farrakhan. Like, what's the history of Muslims and African slaves? Can we have a conversation about that? Like, no, see, we can't, because Louis Farrakhan is banned.
No, but
he's banned. Do you see what I mean?
Here's what he's
Free
doing for the
speech
community.
always wins. He's going to come out and say that bullshit, and most people are going to be like, this guy's ridiculous. That's what they don't. That's why they ban Milo and Alex Jones, because they're too dangerous, because they shift the conversation away from the direction they're pulling it in a way that they can't control, and they just can't deal with it. They're
we're, yeah, and we're
psychopaths,
talking about
dude.
landing on the moon. They're
They're
going to put the first woman on the
psychopaths.
moon, is what I heard. So
Okay, wow.
is that the new? Is that
So
the
what
new,
happens then? Okay, what does that prove? Why can't we like do something for the first woman that's instead of like, look at me, I went all the way out to this far rock, I climbed to the top of the highest mountain, like maybe something that is classically like, you know, really feminine. Like, why can't we celebrate something like that? Like, oh, that's sexist. Like, well, then you're sexist. I think that you're sexist, and you think that I'm sexist, but we actually have different definitions for different words.
You know what they're going to find?
We are just having a communication breakdown because I think that you're just as crazy as you think I am. But the difference is our whole civilization was built on people who would basically agree with me way more than they agree with you. Like the people who built the system you're living in and functioning off of, and all the things you're taking for granted, those people went to church on Sunday. Even the ones who didn't personally believe it and wrote about it still respected the need for a religious like a moral society, a moral code for people. So I mean, that's the thing that's to me, I think that's the interesting thing that's happening in society is conservative is you know, going in the direction of, you know, religion and tradition, and then the liberals are, you know, basically going to this eternal revolution idea where misery loves company. Like it might be as shitty as China, but it's our China, and you know, we have power, and you know, 10,000, 13,000 little babies get born every year and left out on a street corner in the cold, assuming some person will drive by and see the baby and like pick up the baby. Like that kind of stuff is like sadistic and twisted and evil, and those people now have the technology with the philosophy that didn't get them the technology, and now, you know, we're in a power broking situation with them, and it's like in the middle of all that, these ridiculous narcissists are trying to like, now we're going to change, you know, gender, and we're going to bend reality to fit our ideological position, and we're going to force everyone else to do it. You know, it's like they actually think that, like, it's so stupid. It's so destructive and simple-minded, and it's just good that they get called out on that every once in a while, you know? But it's like anytime someone does that, what happens? At first they're ridiculed. At first they're they try to destroy them, and when the destroying doesn't work, then they're like, now we have to ban them. So it's like the next thing, and I've said this for years, and I don't, you know, I'm not personally interested in it enough to have invested in this idea, but I don't understand why there isn't a conservative Facebook. Like, I don't understand why there isn't
because then they would call it bias.
Version of
it would be
Amazon.
called biased and one-sided.
Well, right. Like,
Facebook
why isn't
made
there?
it
What if there was a conservative Jeff Bezos? You know what I mean? Like somebody who operated a different business model to compete against Amazon, and it actually was better. And he was a hardcore right winger.
Because
like,
here's where I'm skeptic.
You know?
I don't believe that Facebook. I believe the Facebook is the CIA op, and all these things. It's not.
Well, that's what the internet originally was a way for the government.
It was invented by the military
to spy on people. Yeah, to try to catch bad guys.
Now, a military veteran.
It's just like a cell phone.
That.
All the stuff in a cell phone was originally used to create a laser guided missile. I mean, that's why it's small. That's the microchip.
Dude, I can't handle
for
it,
the
man.
aerodynamic reality of flight.
Like one of my biggest regrets in life is signing up for Facebook. And the person that told me to it, they said, "Oh, you never heard of Facebook?" I said, "No. What the hell?" I was on MySpace trying to upload my songs and stuff.
No, that's what I was doing, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's over now." Like I was
What?
like, "Oh,
Right.
like
MySpace,
fashion."
that's
so this
the answer.
operates like fashion.
MySpace was the wholesome.
No, MySpace,
fair.
But MySpace got probably bought out, and then it was oversaturated with ridiculous amounts of ads and all these like, and people's computers weren't fast enough to handle it, and it was just like, screw this. I mean, it was kind of. I just remember thinking how stupid it was, the whole fad concept. But, that's one problem, for conservatives is it's like, because we play games fairly, typically because we actually really want to win, because that's like one of the things that drives us. Like we didn't think like, oh, if we don't try to monopolize a portion of like, the entertainment industry, then eventually we won't even be able to have actors or playwriters or producers who have our opinions, because they won't be allowed to like step foot in the business. You know what I mean? We just didn't play dirty like that. Like we could have, but then when we do that, then it's like crazy Christian extremists, But it's like you can almost see why in the past, in Christian cultures, they would just, certain things were just not allowed if they were like against the Christian, church interpretation of right and wrong or whatever. Like you can see why they used to do that at a more primitive time in history. It's just going through these cycles, and I guess we just have to be a part of it. And
part of me wants
but
to
you
move.
have to choose. Everyone has to choose.
Yeah.
What, you want to move out to the wilderness and like eat berries?
Yeah. Part of me wants
Yeah,
to,
me too. It would be fun. It would be fun.
Well, it's part of me wants to try
But
to find a way. I've been trying to look all over this country and even the world. Where could I go to where I'm not running from something. I'm just getting rid of the temptations of the sick world, which I don't think anything wrong with that. Maybe it's a form of running, but is it would it be healthy? Like, like the monks that live in Tibet, they're not fucked up by this world. Now they've got their own little,
Yeah, but their world is
it's fucked up in its own way
because
they get raided by certain
they're sitting
imperialists
there,
and
they're meditating. Like that's why I believe in Jesus, because pick up your cross and follow me. Like there might be blood. Like it's not going to be easy. Like are you coming or not? That's what I mean? And I think that's why the real reason what the West has advanced. I don't think it's because of like skin color or racial prejudice or patriarchal oppression. I think that all different cultures were struggling throughout history, and then the reason ours has emerged on top is because we have that value system that allows the people who make innovative decisions and create real wealth, they don't end up in prison or a gulag or getting banned from the right to speak in public. You know what I mean? Like it's just the mob. That's all Facebook has become. It's like in in a different time in history, there's one political party in the town and then there's another political party and they disagree, and one guy who disagrees is suddenly surrounded by a mob of the other groups, the other group, and they're like, if you keep talking and telling people that they shouldn't support us, we're gonna like beat the crap out of you and like, follow your wife home and like, we're gonna destroy your property and maybe something bad will happen to one of your kids, like anything, telling him that he has to shut up and he can't say anything. That should be something that everyone should turn around and go, oh my gosh, that's unacceptable. But a significant percentage of millennials and leftists in America and throughout the West are, they're laughing. They're going, I'm glad. No one wants to hear you anyways. Like they are that delusional one who would sooner, be a part of a corrupt system if they see that there's an advantage to play, rather than stand up against something that's tyrannical or oppressive or evil,
Dude, we were at the mall the other day. We were going for a walk just to walk around and, see what's going on. I could not believe the way these women are dressed.
Oh, I know.
From age 70 down to age 13. And the men is the worst. Every man had the same exact skinny pants on, same exact shoes, same exact gold little whatever watch, same exact haircut, same exact shades, same exact t-shirt. Like, they all think they're movie stars. Every single one of them. And it was like, it was so freaking depressing in that freaking mall to see that. I just felt like so alone in the world. And I already do kind of feel alone in the world, but it's like being rubbed in. And it's like, where were people like me at the mall? Where were people like my family or friends? Where's people that
they're not at the mall anymore. I mean, that's the thing I've been trying to teach
where
my daughters.
Where are these people?
Every time I've taken them to the different malls, they're like, the mall. They think it's the coolest place ever. And it was so funny because, I'm sitting there and she's like, Dad, why do you always, make... You say bad things about the mall. Why? And I was like, because there's a lot of reasons. And she was like, why? And I was like, do you see this shoe over here? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what does that number say? And she's like, 8, 0, 0, 0, or 7, 9, 9, 9. And I'm like, okay, so this is like, $80. This is like 80 coins. This is a lot of money right here. And she goes, okay, and I'm like, you can get this same shoe for half as much money. And she's like, not the same shoe. And I said, yeah, the same shoe from the same box. And she goes, why? Why do they want so much money for it? And I was like, because it's the mall. You know what I mean? Like she's kind of starting to get it. Like I'm like, you have to understand that the presentation and the person coming up to you and asking you for help, you pay a fee for that. So it is fun in the sense that it's a mall and it's all on display, and but there's an exchange that has to happen where it's not too much. You're not paying too much of a markup to where it's not worth it for you. You know what I mean? It's got to be just the right level of convenience. And all those people who are all dressed the same, they've lost their sense of economic independence. They're millennials. You know what I mean? They're going to vote for Bernie Sanders. They all dress the same. They think everyone should get paid the same.
No, I got
everyone should have the same.
I don't.
Everything
think
should be the same. They don't understand how things work. It's just like running a business. Everyone in a business is not the same. Everyone has different roles to play, but everybody is not the same, and everybody can't do the same thing. And if you just kind of let the wheel of like the ship like go from person to person, the ship will crash. You know what I mean? Everybody has a part to play, and it's a beautiful thing, but ultimately there has to be structure, and they call that the patriarchy. And then they simultaneously make fun of religion and say they believe in survival of the fittest, which you would think they love the patriarchy because, isn't that the fittest? That's the people who survived through their brutishness and their combination of intellect and willpower and physical dominance and oppression. Why is that morally wrong if you're not Christian? I don't know, what, or if you're not at least religious and you don't have a tradition that says that it's evil. What if you don't believe in evil, or you think it's relative, or it's in the eye of the beholder? Then you know what I mean? If you follow their thinking very far, it just kind of leads to this. I don't know. It kind of leads nowhere.
It's just so freaky to me.
Like a serpent eating its own tail.
It's just so freaky, man. The lack of individualism. I used to want to be an individual. Now these people, they all are the same, and I don't think these millennials, I don't think they do vote. They don't watch the news. They don't know. They don't even know who Tupac is.
That's what Twitter is for, dude. They
don't.
See, and that's the thing. It's like
they don't even remember.
They don't need to know who Tupac is. That's the problem. Is they need to know who Booker T. Washington is.
But they don't.
They need to know. They need to actually know what Martin Luther King.
They don't know
actually
anything.
Believed about judging someone by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. They don't. They've just accepted things at face value, and they're going forward from this incorrect position, and they think, and this is the scary thing about the Facebook overlords and those types, is that they think they're superior, and they're in some ways they are superior in terms of their ability to manage certain things, but in other ways they're rank amateurs, but they have the power now. And they use deception and don't mind us. We're just a platform. We're just a communication device. Don't hold us liable for content, but now we're going to regulate it. Wait, what? If you would have said that in the beginning, we would have never joined. We would have started a different type of Facebook. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's sick, dude. And Mark Zuckerberg looks weird. He looks like
he looks like a Greek. He looks like one of the
dangerous, man. He looks like that evil dude, that evil king.
He's like a Bugs Bunny character.
He's like that king that tortures dogs in front of his little sister and shit or something.
What, like Ivan the Terrible or like
something, dude.
Joffrey?
And you could
From
like
Game of
yeah.
Wieners?
I mean, I'm serious. Like, he doesn't look healthy, man. Something's wrong with that dude. And it almost looks like he also looks scared. He looks like he fears the reckoning.
We don't know. The truth is stranger than fiction, and we don't know what kind of pressure and things all these people are under and who's actually in control. But, that's, again, God will sort all of that out. And, it's a pretty simple game that he's laid out for us. And there's people who are running from that game and making their own game, and they're going to destroy the world in the process. But, he's ultimately going to pull the plug when he feels like it. And
plus, didn't he steal Facebook from the real creator?
Well, that...
Whoa!
Yeah, right.
I think you told me that.
Isn't it always the way?
Can you imagine?
I don't know. I actually don't know the original story. I have heard that
same with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, kind of.
Well, there's always that kind of thing that happens, and then once the person's ship begins to rise, they think it's their mind and their intellect, and they don't give credit where credit is due because they're in a position of authority, and it's something it's just part of life. You just have to deal with it, and I've learned to not let that affect me as much and see value in myself. And that's why these people fear the market, because they know that people who have a tendency to be politically opposed to them also have a tendency to, find good jobs in competitive markets and improve things and increase technology and make the world go forward in the modern sense, and invent all these things that everybody uses now. These women, like, imagine a woman sitting there on her cell phone texting about toppling the patriarchy, and it's just, you just sit there, and if you could see in the bathroom,
without a
you
phone.
could see the men installing the toilet and the caulking, and then hooking up the plumber coming out and
I don't
hooking
see
up a
millennials.
connection.
I don't see one millennial being able to do that.
Dude, well, no, that's why they immigrate labor workers. You know what I mean?
What about,
and then they divide the labor working conservative man against the labor working Mexican, and then they con the labor working Mexican immigrant into destroying his own individual power, his potential power as a citizen. That's why the Democrats won't give the illegal immigrants citizenship. They like them as illegal immigrants because it gives them leverage over them. And
they are true peasants.
Yeah, they're
dude,
using
that's so
them.
deep. I never
it's
thought of it
true,
like that. Dude, that's disgusting.
It's racist, man. Dude. They're the ones who are racist.
Dude, I'm so sick of this world, man.
No, but it's okay because it's as old as time. It's just the serpent. It's the devil.
I just hope I'm doing everything maybe I'm doing more than most by even talking about it, and
Yeah, I think you have to take it every day. Every single day you have to wake up and you have to try.
Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing the right. I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not doing what someone needs to do something. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's crazy, man. These millennials, they don't have respect for elders. They don't even, seriously, draft or no draft, or any millennials should we even think about letting these people in the military? Maybe they can be trained otherwise, but when I was a kid, even if you got drafted, you still had somewhat of an interest. You played with G.I. Joes. You were into football. These they're not into sports. They've never even been to a bowling alley. Bowling alleys dude.
Yeah, but you have to understand too. A lot of them have been to bowling alleys, and a lot of them have been dragged there by their parents, and they complained about it, but they still went. And it's not all bad. It's God is playing out. He's letting these things play out, like painting like a brush painting on a canvas. He's painting a picture with humanity, and it's his picture. So, you know what I mean? He only allows what he allows.
It's just interesting.
As much as
you're right. It's just
but that when you submit to that, you realize that's the trick. Is it's his game and it's his painting, and you can't fight it. So that's the hardest thing. One of the hardest things for me to accept is to try to deal with that and try to move forward and do the best I can for my family, and try to get as many people that I care about as possible, to the afterlife and to a positive existence. Like, I'm actively willing good things for people that I love, and people who I don't even know, but who I love just because they've unjustly suffered. You know, like those little kids who've been in trafficking rings and stuff. The things that those little kids, like, every little kid is beautiful. Like, I have so much respect for children because they're innocent and they're just, like, you know, in awe of how beautiful the world is. And then you know, the ones who are abused and taken advantage of, it breaks my heart.
I don't know how they can. I mean, I understand that they can go on and they have the strength, and that's what made them strong. I can't understand. I can't fathom myself in those shoes, because I am such an innocent person that didn't have to suffer those kind of terrible truths. Like that guy, he's going on like a world tour. He's been missing both of his arms. He was an aborted child that was pulled out of a dumpster that survived.
Yeah, dude.
And some lady, some saint. I believe she was an angel. I don't believe she was real. I believe,
but maybe she was. Maybe she was a woman who was a nasty woman her whole life, and she had like 3 abortions.
It's crazy, dude.
And then one day she finally did something good. We don't know. We don't.
It's almost like the lady that saved this guy. Her story's more amazing. That she even. It makes me think maybe I should go start fishing through the dumpsters for children. Like this, he grew up to like a full-grown man. He was like, he was written in the books as like he was dead. Like he wasn't dead, but he was.
So it shows you when God wants a life to live, and He finds one willing participant.
They can't stop it.
They can't exactly.
It can't be stopped, and that is hard to. It's like hard to comprehend that. You have to like remind yourself. It's like. Dude, they can't. No matter what they do, they're gonna lose. It's like you have to know that.
It's like that Johnny Cash song.
You just have to know it.
When the man comes around,
you just have to know.
It'll be sweet justice. Will be good.
That gives me the night terrors, man. People have been having nightmares a lot lately.
Yeah, those are also something we talked about earlier that can be linked to demonic entities, which many people think. They don't believe in, you know, and then they go, oh, but I'm going to watch a scary movie, but it's not really scary. And it's like, dude, you're playing with fire.
You absolutely are.
You can joke all you want, but I'm sorry, I believe in the democracy of the dead, and every culture throughout history.
That's a good band name, Democracy of the Dead.
Yeah.
DOD. Isn't that already a band name?
Probably already been taken.
Democracy of the Dead. Patriarchy of the Dead. I'm going to be thinking about band names all night now.
The Patriot.
All right, well, we'll call it quits at this epic level of existence. Thanks for listening. Round 2, we'll be catching up. We're gonna name this podcast. I don't know yet.
Oh no, little sis me, the king of my castle, the patriarchy.
Yes, that's what we're naming it. I've never even heard of that. What is that?
It's a lyric for one of my songs.
Really?
Yeah. Because they call patriarchal men, they call us cisgender. It's supposed to be like an insult. So I just thought it'd be funny.
Dude, that sounded deep. Next time you come here...
it's little cis me.
Dude, no.
The king of my castle, the patriarchy.
Damn. Dude, next time you come here, we're going to open with song lyrics.
We could.
Because that's a good way to... It's like postmarking.
It's just you could just say one of the
That's
other
some
lines
spoken
was
word shit. You should go to open mics and just drop that shit.
But I tuck my kids in every night. I make lots of babies with one wife. Like,
it's true. Mark, you need to start going to those spoken word nights.
It's just funny.
All those freaks of spoken word.
Oh yeah, when they go up and
don't even
they do like spoken poetry.
Just
about
go
the
up first, kill the whole atmosphere, and leave.
It's little sis me, the king of my castle.
Little sis me,
the patriarchy. I just cashed another check, and my wife spent almost all of it. How oppressive of me. You know, like, really?
Oh, damn, dude.
Wow, like,
that's too deep,
the moment I work all day, and then I get home, and it's like like a tsunami of emotional needs and I'm just like, here I am to help all of you. And then someone comes on the TV, and they're like, it's the patriarchy that's oppressing us. And it's like, no, dude, you never even had a dad, so you don't understand what's going on, and you're blaming.
It's inflammation. Inflammation is the downfall to liberalism. See, that's my point. That's
interesting. Yeah,
because when I have inflammation and like low blood sugar and I have diabetic rage, I'm still pro-life and
When you have
conservative, but
inflammation-
I am in that rage mode where it's like, you motherfuckers. Blah, 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 blah.
When you're on meds, you're on lots of different meds, and you have not to mention you have the same sensations in other areas for different reasons. It's brutal.
All right, peace out. We'll see you next time. Happy May 29th. What's next month? March, April, May, June. It's summer's almost here or whatever. God bless everyone that's struggling with all the storms. It's been some weird, crazy winds out here, especially out where we live. Like a week straight of like some strange winds. I don't remember it in my life, but and the winds of shit have turned. The tides have turned
Is
north.
it global warming or is it God?
Yeah,
Who is in the wind? Is it Al Gore?
We pray for
I can
Mission
hear his
Beach,
voice in the
Ocean
wind.
Beach out there. Surf's up. All right. Well, at least we left on a good note. We send Captain Grimm to rest. So next week will be Captain Conspiracy versus Captain
Versus Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch is too much sugar and soy product and
Gluten highway.
high fructose corn syrup. Don't feed that
The
shit to
high
your kids.
fructose gluten highway.
Just because it says it's a part of a pH balanced diet or whatever that bullshit, your kids are fucked up. You people need to start
Oh,
eating.
Whatever. It says it's healthy.
They need to
right
start eating
here.
a
Look,
serious diet.
Look, it says healthy choice.
And then, that is true about liberals. A lot of these liberals, these progressive liberals that are just living in the modern world, you need to
living in the
you need to
world.
cut back on the information. Mic drop.